Hey Book Dragons, welcome back. Today I am talking about books that I would like to see adapted. Let's go. So I've been wanting to start a series about adaptations, TV, movies that are made from different books. And I wanted to make a video begging the powers that be to choose some of my favorite books to be adapted for the screen. And so I made a nice handy dandy little list here of books that I really think should be adapted. So we're going to get into that in a minute, but before we do, please make sure if you enjoy my content, subscribe, hit the like, all that good stuff. It really helps my channel, helps the YouTube algorithm to find my videos and suggest them. So if you wouldn't mind, I would really appreciate that. And now that that's said, let's talk about adaptations. The first book that I think should really be adapted is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I absolutely love this book. It's my second favorite book of all time. That's high praise from me. If a book makes it that high in my mind, then you know it's good, and I think it would make a fun adaptation. It's about a traveling circus, a magical circus that only appears at night in various different locales, and there's a darkness to it behind the scenes, and the benefactors of the circus have ulterior motives and a lot of mystery and intrigue surrounding them. There are people who are part of the inner circle of the circus that are tied mystically together. So it's just a phenomenal book, and I think it would really be well done on screen. And I would probably prefer a TV series because you can do more with it, but I'd be satisfied with a Night Circus movie as well, right? So let's move on to the next one. The next one I would like to talk about is The Dresden Files. Now, I've only read the first 4 Dresden Files novels. I'm planning on reading more of them this year, but it's just a really fun series. And I know it's been adapted before. I've never watched the adaptation, but I heard it was a real flop and didn't really communicate the true heart and soul of the Dresden books. I think it deserves a reboot. They're just great stories. They work really well as a serial format. So I personally think Dresden would work best as a TV series. And my pick for the format for the series would be the same style as Sherlock. So if you have watched Sherlock, it's a modern retelling of the Sherlock Holmes stories with Benedict Cumberbatch, and I think that format would be perfect for the Dresden Files. Each episode of Sherlock is an hour and a half, so it's like a mini movie. Each season is only 3 episodes, but each one is like a mini movie, and I thought it worked perfect, and I would love to see the Dresden Files adapted for that. If you're not familiar with the Dresden Files, it follows Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden. He's a wizard in modern day Chicago who is a supernatural gumshoe for hire, to sum it all up. And he is just so much fun, and I think it would work well in that format, and I hope it gets adapted. It was slated to be adapted at one point, and then it got dropped, I guess. I never heard anything more about it, so unfortunately. Yeah. The next one I want to talk about is The Dark Tower. Now, there have been rumors about the Dark Tower getting a new adaptation, a TV series adaptation. It did, of course, get the movie adaptation, if you can call the movie that. I never watched the movie. I didn't even want to bother because I could tell it was not going to be even remotely close to the core of the story. But I think it really deserves a long form telling, maybe similar to The Stand, like CBS did with The Stand, or Paramount Plus, I guess now. But do one of those for each book in the Dark Tower. I think that might really be something, or another format. But it really does need to be a TV series, in my personal opinion. There's just so much in the Dark Tower series that a movie doesn't do it justice. So don't do that again, folks, okay? If you're watching this video, don't do that again. Make it a TV series. And like I said, I have heard rumors that they are making a TV series for it, but I haven't heard anything in a long time. So let's get that going. I think if it can be adapted, which I know is debatable, I think it would make a really good TV series. So let's move on to Mistborn. And Mistborn is kind of one of those interesting stories. It could go either way. It could go in a movie or a TV series. It might be better served with a TV series, but it also could be a really fun movie. And I know that Brandon Sanderson is writing a script to possibly shop around for an adaptation to have it made. So I think that would be kind of cool if his own script got picked up for an adaptation. So we shall see what that would be like. But if you're interested in seeing what I think about casting for the Mistborn series, I just played around, did a fun video with a couple of my friends, Carl and Pete, over at Geek on My Sleeve. We did a fan casting for Mistborn, just on the off chance that it ever gets made. So I'll leave the link to that video in the description below, and in the cards at the end. You can check that out. The next book I think would be really fun is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. And this one could be a movie. I think probably that one would work better as a movie. Some of Neil Gaiman's books work really well for movies, like Coraline. I think Coraline worked really good as a movie. I think The Graveyard Book would work really well as a movie too. It follows a character named Bod who wanders into the graveyard as a baby and ends up getting raised by the denizens of the graveyard, who of course are dead. They're ghosts, but he ends up getting raised by ghosts. It's a fun story. It's a short book that I think would work really well for a movie. So that is The Graveyard Book. And then one of my absolute top choices for an adaptation is my favorite book of all time, Ocean at the End of the Lane. At least so far, it's my favorite book of all time. And I don't think that'll change anytime soon. But it would make for a fantastic adaptation. It probably would work good as a movie. It's a ghost story with a man who comes back to his hometown for a funeral and ends up remembering the weird, strange little girl that lives in the house down by a lake, which just happens to be as deep as an ocean. There's a lot of magical properties to it, and there's witches and magic and just, ghosts and all this fun stuff. I think it would make a fantastic adaptation. You could probably squeeze it into a short event series, kind of like they did with Good Omens maybe, but I think it would probably be better served just as a movie. So we shall see, but it needs to be made. If none of these books that I have mentioned gets adapted, that needs to be adapted. I'm just putting it out there right now. I won't rest until Ocean at the End of the Lane gets adapted, and satisfactorily adapted, I might add. I won't stand for anything less. You don't ruin my favorite book. Well, you can't ruin the book, but don't ruin the movie version of it, okay? All right. So, Earthsea is another one. I think Earthsea would be a fantastic story for the screen. It got adapted several years back into a TV miniseries, and it was just terrible for many reasons, not the least of which is the fact that they whitewashed the main character, Ged, and he's black in the books. Don't do that, guys. I mean, at least, I mean, what was the point of whitewashing him? Oh, okay, anyway. So, yeah, it wasn't a great adaptation. I think it deserves a new adaptation. I've only read The Wizard of Earthsea. I'm going to read the other books eventually. But it's a great story, and I think it would work well. That one would probably be better as a TV series, to be honest. Maybe kind of like His Dark Materials on HBO. Probably that kind of big budget adaptation would work for Earthsea. So let's do it, okay? Make it happen. Finally, I would like to talk about the world of Shannara. There was an adaptation made a couple of years ago, and it got a sequel as well, the Shannara Chronicles. Maybe some of you have seen it. It was a entertaining story if you divorce it completely from the Shannara books. Terry Brooks did praise the series. He said he enjoyed it. He tried to help fans understand that some things needed to be changed, and that's cool. You know, it's his baby. He championed it. He gave the approval for it and everything. But fans were definitely not happy. I, for one, was not happy with it as an adaptation. As a TV show, if I just completely separate my mind from the books, it was a fun show, and there were small parts of it that were good. Manu Bennett was cast as the druid Alanon, and I think that was a fantastic choice. He pretty much redeemed that entire series just with his performance as Alanon. So it wasn't great, but it was passable because of that. Shannara needs to be readapted. Just do a complete reboot and stick to the stories, folks. You know, just stick to what you know will work, and that's if you care about the fans enough to adapt it in such a way that it is faithful to the books. You can't be 100% faithful. I get it. You have to make changes. It just happens that way. But don't make such drastic changes that it just destroys the story. I mean, yeah, so I'm going to put that out there. We need a readaptation of the Shannara series. And, you know, don't give it to Spike TV. Don't give it to MTV like you did before. Actually give it to a high-quality, high-class studio that is going to do justice to it. And there you go. So that is my list of books that I think really need to be adapted for the screen. Let me know what you think in the comments. Have you seen some of the previous adaptations of some of these books that I mentioned? What did you think of them? Do you have others that are high on your list to be adapted? Let me know in the comments down below. Stick around. I mentioned before that my 2-year anniversary on BookTube is coming up. I'm going to be doing a Q&A for that, so make sure to leave me some questions down in the comments below that you would like to see me answer. And I will be happy to answer those. I am going to continue this series on book adaptations. So it's not going to be consecutive. I'll do other videos when I get in the mood to do them, but there are more videos in this series coming. And I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. Please make sure that you read more books. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.